most of the mission is in Guayaquil, probably half of the mission, or of the zones in our mission. So those will be pretty small. Guayaquil is pretty compact, so I mean that whole zone is a pretty small area, and all these tiny little wards. But there's lots of people in them. It's just the area is really small, so you could walk around the whole thing in like 2 hours sometimes. But the outside of Guayaquil, it spreads out big time. So the other major cities in our mission, so there was Guayaquil, then you following down the coast, there was Naranjal and Machala, and then a little bit more to the east was Santa Rosa. So those ones are all considered coastal cities. And usually the coast is the more successful area. There's more people there, people out in the streets. It's easier to find people. I spent 10 months in Machala, so almost half my mission I was in there. And Machala split up into two zones. I was in both of them. I think 4 or 5, maybe 6 different areas in that city. And that was my favorite place. It was like Guayaquil, but it wasn't as big, meaning that the people were similar. It just wasn't as crazy. Guayaquil gets a little crazy. There's so many people there, and but Machala was great. Santa Rosa, most people would say that's their favorite. I never served there, but it's pretty similar to Guayaquil or to Machala. It's just a little bit smaller of a town and more spread out. But there's tons of missioners there, and they have a lot of success. But then there's also there's two areas. There's Cuenca and Loja that are up in the mountains. Cuenca is actually, I think it's like 5,000 feet up in the air. Like, it's super high. So it's actually kind of cold, which is weird. I remember in the packet before I left on my mission, it said to bring a coat. And I thought that was odd because it's right on the equator. But in Cuenca, it does get a little chilly. I wouldn't say you'd need a coat, but maybe a light jacket or a sweater did the trick. Loja's just about the same. It's also really high up in the mountains. So the culture changed completely once you go up there. It's a little bit wealthier up there. The houses are nicer. And it's just harder because people are homeless. They're not in the streets. It's a little bit more reserved and quieter. So it wasn't as easy to find people. The people there are great. It's just a question of when they're home. They also travel more because of work and stuff like that in those cities. So a lot of people would dread going there, a lot of the missionaries, which is sad because they were really great places. And they've gotten better over the time that I was on my mission. But honestly, I loved being there. It was different, but it was great still in the same way. And there's a lot of members up there too. But yeah, there was a stark difference between the coast and then up in the mountains. There was also the Galapagos, which I'm not sure exactly how the work is there because I never was there. And there's usually only 2, maybe 4 missionaries on the islands. But there is one other area that's actually in the jungle, because Ecuador is typically they split it up between the coast, the jungle, and then up in the mountains, because that's kind of where it runs. We only had one area in the jungle, and it was a straight mix between the two. The people were more like those up in the mountains, but it felt like you were in the coast, and the food was more like the coast. But in terms of my favorite areas, Machala was my favorite for sure, because the people were so awesome. They'd love to talk to the missionaries, just because they'd seen them walking around. People would call you over, be like, "Hey, like, what do you guys talk about? What do you preach about?" And that was really special to be in that city, because it was so easy to find people that wanted to talk about the gospel and God, and they were interested about learning, whatever it is that we had to say, which as a missionary is so nice. It was definitely a really blessed place to be, and I was so glad I got called there. It was a really awesome mission, and the people there are really good. Whether the rain is the biggest thing. There'll be times where it looks totally clear outside, an hour later it's pouring on you. So an umbrella is important.
Ecuador is right on the equator. It's in South America, just below Colombia. And it's just a little country, but they produce the best bananas in the world, and there are banana fields everywhere. They have a temple. It's in Guayaquil. I served in Ecuador, Guayaquil South. And so the mission was actually in the boundaries of the North mission, but it was pretty close. And so when our mission president gave us permission, we could go, which was really exciting. In Guayaquil itself, there are a lot of members. There are a lot of stakes. In Guayaquil is on the coast. And so they're kind of two cultures. It's like the coast culture and the mountainous culture. And so along the coast, there are a lot of wards. I did serve in a couple branches. In the mountains too, there are a lot fewer members, but mostly wards. My mission was the very south of Ecuador. And so it was from Guayaquil down until the Peru border. And our mission actually also had the Galapagos Islands. And it's a growing country. The members down there are so faithful. There are a lot of less actives too, but that's what we need to work on. In my mission, Ecuador, Guayaquil South, the standards were set really, really high. And every night your zone leaders would call you, and sister training leaders would have to call, or you would have to call them if you were one of them, or your district leaders would call and they would always ask you about your numbers and your numbers. We got to get our numbers up. And they would always say, but be careful, like these are people, and remember that each number is a person. And it was just a little bit frustrating to me because a lot of the time I felt like just numbers, numbers, numbers. And I got really frustrated at one point on my mission because we only had 4 people with a baptismal date. In my mission, that's really low. And so I was getting frustrated because the other sisters in our area had like 8 people with a baptismal date. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm a bad missionary. I'm being obedient. But I realized pretty much, near the end of my mission, I realized everyone says it, but it really isn't about the numbers. If you're focusing on numbers and just kind of going fast, 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 then you're not going to get the results you want, which is converts who truly understand the gospel and who are able to go to the temple and are faithful their whole lives. That's what you want. And I think a lot of the time on my mission, they focus so much on the go, 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 and more, and teach, and your lesson shouldn't be more than 15 minutes, and you have to have a member, but the member, I don't know. It was just a lot of kind of chaos, I felt like a lot. And our mission was a very successful mission. And Elder Waddell actually came to our mission, and he spoke to the 3 missions in Guayaquil. There's Guayaquil North, West, and South. And he spoke to us, and he said, Guayaquil is the city that baptizes most in the whole world. And I thought, I hope you're telling the truth, because that's kind of crazy. Like, that's a big deal. And I was feeling all like, oh, well, yeah, I'm serving here, so I'm part of that. And our mission always beats the other missions, so we're the best. And he said that there was one ward in Guayaquil. There were 50 adults baptized in 1 year, in one ward. And out of those 50, only 4 were paying their tithing. And so only 4 could go to the temple. Only 4 were enduring to the end. Only 4 could make it into heaven at this point in their lives. And he said, that's not acceptable. And he said, even though Guayaquil is the city that baptizes most in the world, it now needs to become the city that retains the most as well. And that made me think, and I was grateful because a lot of my converts, they were truly converted. And so I did feel pretty calm about that. But he also said, the number of baptisms you had doesn't define your success. He said it's the person that you become on your mission. If you are like your Savior, and if you understand the atonement. And so I realized that a lot of my mission, because a lot of my leaders were pretty strict and they would follow up every day, and you had to give them your numbers, and halfway through the day, and you better have 10 people that you talk to. I don't know. And so I realized that I had been focusing a lot on that. And it probably wasn't our leaders' intention to make us focus on numbers, but it seemed that way a little bit. And so I realized that I I mostly just needed to rely on the Spirit and to just remember to really love the people and teach them because I love them, as if I were Jesus Christ, which as a missionary, you are a representative of him. You represent him in that moment. If he were in your spot, what would he do? And so I had to like change my whole mindset. And that really, even though it was kind of near the end, it was definitely a turning point in my mission because it made me feel like a more successful missionary. And so for people going to Ecuador, Guayaquil South, it's going to be hard and you're going to have high expectations. But my biggest point of advice would probably just be to rely on the Spirit, to listen to that, and to love the people you teach. Because if we have charity, which is the pure love of Christ, we're going to do everything that he would do. And that will bring us the most success and fruits that last, that don't just get baptized just because. Because Heavenly Father's children aren't just numbers. And he's not growing the church just to have more numbers. They're more missionaries so that we can bring his children to know the truth. And as a missionary, you have to remember that follow the Spirit, love the people. And if you love them and you're serving them and you're teaching them with all of your heart and all the love that you have, all the Spirit you have, the chosen people are going to say yes. And they're going to remain faithful till the day they die.